Welcome back. If you've ever felt like something was off but couldn't quite explain it, you're not alone. A woman doesn't always test you with words. She often tests you with silence, with distance, with ambiguity. And the way you respond determines whether she sees you as a man of value or just another boy playing catch-up in her emotional game. Because make no mistake, many women, consciously or unconsciously, play psychological games, not because they are malicious, but because they're testing for strength, for steadiness, for the kind of man who doesn't fold under pressure. So let's begin with the truth most men don't want to admit. You are being tested. Every time she delays her reply, every time she posts that seductive bikini photo after asking for space, every time her caption reads, "I need distance to find myself," and yet it's aimed directly at your attention. And what happens next? Most men panic, they chase, they explain, they beg to be seen, to be heard, to be reassured. They fall into the trap. But a high-value man does something very different. He notices, he sees the pattern, and he stays still. He recognizes that these aren't random acts, they're carefully curated triggers. They are invitations to lose control, to abandon logic, to abandon self-respect. And the moment you respond impulsively, emotionally, or with desperation, you confirm her suspicion that your confidence is conditional. But here's the Stoic truth: a man's worth cannot be shaken by the chaos of another. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." And in this game, your reaction is the proof of your identity. That's why the man who walks with quiet certainty, who does not flinch when she pulls away, who does not lose sleep when she sends mixed signals, becomes the man she cannot shake, the man who cannot be toyed with. Because when you no longer play the game, you expose the game for what it is. Now here's the key. Recognizing the behavior doesn't mean condemning it. It means understanding it. Understand that delayed replies are not about time, they're about power. That a thirst trap photo isn't just about confidence, it's a flare shot into your ego designed to see if you'll respond. And those vague captions about healing, they're sometimes messages meant for you, wrapped in the illusion of detachment. But you must not bite the bait. Your job is not to decode every move. It's to remain grounded in your frame, your values, and your inner peace. Because in a world full of noise, the man who listens but doesn't react stands out. So when she delays texting back, notice, but don't chase. When she posts to get a rise out of you, observe, but don't engage. When she plays hot and cold, remain warm and still. She wants to see if you're governed by emotion or guided by mastery. And when she finds a man she cannot emotionally unbalance, she finds herself more drawn, more curious, more silent than ever before, because nothing haunts a woman like the man who saw through the game and simply didn't need to play it. So what happens when the game begins but you refuse to play? You become something rare. You become the calm in her storm. And that is more powerful than any comeback or clever reply. See, most men fall for the trap, not because they're weak, but because they're emotionally invested in an outcome they don't control. When a woman begins to pull away, when her words grow colder, or her attention shifts subtly, they panic. They send long paragraphs, they double text. They ask questions like, "Did I do something wrong? Are you okay? Why are you being distant?" But every one of those messages, though innocent on the surface, betrays one thing: emotional dependence. And emotional dependence is the fastest way to lose both her respect and your own power. A high-value man doesn't chase clarity through words. He creates clarity through action, or sometimes inaction. Because here's the truth: when you respond impulsively to her delay, when you try to force a resolution to her confusion, when you attempt to re-establish control by pleading for reassurance, you're not calming the chaos. You're submitting to it. And that is exactly what these tests are for. They're not about the message. They're about the emotional reaction they provoke in you. She wants to see if you'll spiral, if you'll break your frame, if you'll become what every other man became when things got uncertain, needy. But you are not here to validate her confusion. You are here to embody clarity. A man rooted in Stoic discipline doesn't chase after disappearing affection. He doesn't explain his worth. He doesn't run after a door that slowly closes in front of him, begging it to stay open. Instead, he returns to his mission. He picks up his schedule. He invests his energy into the gym, the business, the craft. He calls his brothers, builds his mind, sharpens his edge, because nothing is more attractive or intimidating than a man who does not fold under emotional pressure. When she sees that her silence doesn't make you react, that her cold tone doesn't shift your warmth into fear, that her delayed response is met with stillness, not anxiety, she begins to wonder, why is he not chasing? Why isn't he trying to win me back? Why is he so calm while I'm the one creating chaos? And that's the moment the frame shifts, because she thought she was leading the dance. But now your calmness has rewritten the rhythm. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." So when she tries to pull your mind into chaos, your job is not to resist her. Your job is to master yourself. You don't need to say, "I'm fine." You show it through unshaken actions. You don't need to prove your worth. You live it through purpose and discipline. And you certainly don't need to reclaim her attention, because you know, attention that can be manipulated isn't worth owning. What should you do instead? When the games begin, return to stillness. When she withdraws affection, expand your mission. When confusion replaces clarity, simplify your world by focusing on what you can control: your habits, your focus, your response. Let her wonder why your energy hasn't changed. Let her feel the contrast between her emotional waves and your internal ocean. Because in the end, what makes a man unforgettable isn't how well he speaks. It's how well he holds his ground in silence. You don't fight fire with fire. You defeat chaos with calm. You don't ask for validation. You become validation through the way you carry yourself. And when the world tries to pull you out of yourself, that is the test. Not of your masculinity, but of your sovereignty. So stop checking your phone. Stop writing drafts you'll never send. Stop over-analyzing every word, every emoji, every pause. Instead, get back to your life. Let her feel your absence, not your anxiety. Let your stillness speak the words you'll never have to say, because the man who does not react becomes the man every woman eventually respects. When you stop reacting, something powerful happens. You begin to see more clearly not just her behavior, but her intentions. Because a woman who plays games is revealing more than her desire for attention. She's showing you whether she values connection or control. And the man who doesn't chase sees it all. Most men, when faced with these emotional tests, get caught in a loop. They think if they just respond the right way, say the right words, act a little more charming, try a little harder, she'll stop testing and finally open up. But that's not how this works, because attention-seeking behavior isn't always about you. Sometimes it's a reflection of her own inner chaos. And the more you chase that chaos, the more it consumes you. A Stoic man understands this. He doesn't view her manipulations with bitterness. He views them as information. He doesn't ask, "How can I fix her mood?" He asks, "Is this the kind of energy I want to welcome into my life?" That shift in mindset is everything, because when you stop playing the game, you see it for what it is, a filter. Every test is an opportunity to observe. Every delay, a chance to measure depth. Every dramatic post, a question silently asked, is this connection real or a performance? So instead of reacting, you watch. Not with suspicion, but with calm discernment. If she posts a thirst trap right after asking for space, you don't comment. You don't message. You don't compete for attention. You observe. If she disappears for days, then returns with flirty banter, you don't celebrate. You don't get pulled into the roller coaster. You slow things down and re-evaluate. Because the man who values himself doesn't reward confusion with closeness. He filters for peace. He filters for honesty. He filters for the kind of presence that builds, not breaks. Let her behavior tell you everything. Let it reveal whether she respects your boundaries or tests them to see how far she can push. Let it show you whether her attention is rooted in truth or in her need to feel powerful. And here's the paradox. When you stop chasing clarity, real clarity appears. You'll notice that the right woman doesn't need to confuse you to feel interesting. She doesn't use distance as a weapon. She doesn't post things to make you guess her heart. She shows up, directly, gently, fully. And in contrast, the game player becomes obvious. Not because she's bad, but because she's not aligned with the peace you've built. This is the masculine edge most men never reach. They're so busy proving they're enough for women who toy with their minds, they forget. The real power is in choosing who gets access to your time, your heart, your mental space. So don't waste your strength trying to fix the unstable. Don't romanticize dysfunction. Don't believe that a strong man is someone who can endure endless drama. A truly strong man doesn't endure what is beneath his standards. He moves through it and lets it fall away. When a woman tests, you see it. When she toys with attention, recognize it. When she shows you inconsistency, believe it. Because if you don't filter early, you'll suffer deeply later. Let your stillness be the boundary. Let your lack of reaction be the gate she must pass with sincerity, not manipulation. You are not here to chase anyone into being honest with you. You're here to stand so firmly in your truth that only those who carry peace, clarity, and respect can stay. Because the one thing a game player cannot handle is a man who is no longer playing. There comes a moment in every man's life when he has to decide, does he keep rewarding inconsistency or does he finally raise the standard? Because a man of value doesn't chase mixed signals. He doesn't romanticize chaos. He doesn't hand out his attention like it's free. He gives it when it's earned. In today's world, where attention is the currency of the ego, some women weaponize ambiguity. They leave texts hanging not because they're busy, but to stir uncertainty. They say, "I don't know what I feel," right after holding your hand like it meant everything. They post quotes like, "If he wanted to, he would," while keeping you in limbo. But a high-value man sees through it all. He doesn't get offended. He doesn't lash out. He simply chooses not to reward the noise. You don't have to punish her. You don't have to shame her. You just don't feed the pattern. Because when a woman says, "I'm confused," you say, "That's okay. But I don't stay in confusion. You figure it out, I'll be living." When she tries to keep you in the gray, asking vague questions like, "So what are we?" After pushing you away for weeks, you don't panic. You don't beg for clarity. You reply, "I don't do gray. I don't share my peace with uncertainty." And then silence, not out of anger, but out of respect for yourself. Because the man who cannot walk away is the man who will always be manipulated. But the man who calmly steps back when respect fades, he becomes unforgettable. Stoicism doesn't tell you to suppress your emotions. It teaches you to discipline them, to move from reaction to clarity, from impulse to principle. So when a woman tests you through drama, silence, flirtation with others, or guilt trips, your power is in how little it moves you. She says, "You never fight for me." You respond, "I don't fight for confusion." She posts something provocative, knowing you'll see it. You smile and do nothing. She says, "I just need space," and then watches your stories 5 minutes later. You don't block, you don't stalk, you simply let her drift while you rise. because what you reward grows. When you reward honesty, consistency, vulnerability, those things flourish. When you reward manipulation, indirect games, or emotional chaos, those things multiply too. So decide, what are you building? Because relationships are not defined by how intensely you chase. They're shaped by what you tolerate. A high-value man doesn't tolerate vagueness. He doesn't tolerate back and forth. He doesn't tolerate being a maybe. He gives his energy to those who bring peace, to those who show up, not just when it's easy, but when it's real. So when a woman stops playing games, when she shows up vulnerable, clear, and emotionally present, you reward that. Not with flowers, not with gifts, but with presence, with trust, with softness, with your full masculine calm. Because a woman who drops the act deserves the real you, the grounded, focused, deeply present you. But if she can't stop performing, if she needs drama to feel loved, if her love is a maze with no exit, you walk, not out of pride, not out of resentment, but because you've outgrown chaos. There's no need to convince anyone of your worth. Your silence, your standards, your refusal to engage with manipulation, they teach louder than any argument ever could. And one day, maybe she'll look back. She'll remember the man who didn't play along, the one who didn't chase when she pulled away, the one who didn't collapse under confusion, and she'll feel the weight of what she lost. Because that's the thing about rewarding honesty. It doesn't just attract peace, it exposes those who can't give it. There's a kind of strength that doesn't make noise. It doesn't flex. It doesn't raise its voice. It doesn't need to be explained. It's simply there, like a mountain that doesn't move when the wind howls. That's what your frame is. It's the inner compass that guides your reactions, your energy, your time. And the moment you let someone else write your emotional script, you've lost it. She may test it intentionally or not. She might cancel on you last minute, disappear for days, and suddenly reappear with a "Hey stranger." Use silence as a weapon or chaos as a lure. But your job is not to control her. Your job is to control your frame. Because the moment you drop it to chase, to please, to explain, you no longer lead. You follow. When she cancels plans, you don't beg for a reschedule. You simply say, "No problem," and fill your evening with purpose, friends, reading, building, training. Because a man of frame doesn't collapse when others shift. He adapts without losing ground. She says, "You're hard to read." You smile, because you weren't put here to be understood by everyone. You were made to stand firm in who you are, to live your values without needing them validated. That's what Stoicism teaches. Your peace is yours to protect. Your boundaries are yours to define. And your presence? That's earned, not begged for. When she plays the silent treatment, hoping you'll spiral, you don't react. You don't send double texts or ask, "What's wrong?" You wait, not out of pettiness, but out of power. Because you've learned, silence is not emptiness, it's information. If someone withdraws every time things get tough, you don't reward the pattern. You observe it and decide what stays in your life. This is your frame. You don't chase validation. You don't over-explain. You don't compromise your values just to keep someone close. You live on principle, not impulse. And that more than looks, money, or status is what makes you irresistible. Because most men fold. They bend under pressure. They try to appease, to fix, to please. They abandon their own standards in the name of love. But love without boundaries is not love. It's surrender. And a man who surrenders his frame will always be tested again and again until there's nothing left of him but anxiety and confusion. So you draw the line, not with anger, not with ego, but with clarity. You say with your actions, "If you're here to grow, I welcome you. If you're here to play games, I'll pass." No arguments, no explanations, just calm disinterest in chaos. Because your frame is not about control, it's about direction. When a woman respects your frame, she feels safe. She knows who you are. She sees the man who leads himself before he leads anyone else. And if she doesn't respect it, you don't try harder, you walk away quieter. You don't lower the mountain to make her feel tall. You invite her to rise with you, but you keep climbing regardless. That's the quiet power of masculine integrity. That's what it means to hold your frame. There is a sacred space within you where no one else has the key. No glance, no message, no seductive whisper can enter unless you open the door. This space is called detachment. And it is not coldness, it is not indifference, it is mastery. Because while the world tells you that real love means obsession, surrender, and emotional dependence, Stoicism teaches the opposite. Love her, but don't lose yourself in her. You see, detachment isn't about not caring, it's about not clinging. It's about letting go of the need to control outcomes while fully showing up as a man of presence and purpose. And that is terrifying to someone who relies on control. So she may test you. She may post the bikini photo right after saying she needs space. She may flirt just close enough to provoke you, but far enough to claim innocence. And in those moments, most men panic. They spiral, they check stories, they text, they demand answers. They abandon their dignity just to feel close again. But not you. You've trained for this. You've practiced restraint like a blade. You don't chase shadows and you don't dance for attention. You observe. She tries to trigger you. You let the wave pass. She tries to get a reaction. You stay still, unmoved, because you've realized any woman who needs to manipulate your emotions to feel powerful is already emptying her own. And the more you chase her chaos, the more you lose your center. Detachment is how you return to it. When you feel the urge to check your phone, you breathe instead. When your mind writes stories of what is she doing, you rewrite your focus toward what you are building. This is not weakness, this is wisdom, because detachment is not the absence of emotion. It is the refusal to be ruled by it. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That's what she feels when you no longer react. That calm, that center, that gravity that cannot be shaken. It makes her question herself. It makes her realize your attention is earned, not manipulated. And here's the paradox. The moment you stop chasing, they start wondering. The moment you stop explaining, they start reflecting. The moment you pull back to protect your peace, they lean in, searching for the man who refuses to be controlled. But your reward isn't her return. It's your freedom. Detachment sets you free from the highs and lows she tries to drag you into. It makes you immune to the silent treatments, the delayed replies, the seductive confusion. Because you've made peace with solitude, you found joy in your path. And you understand that any love built on dependency isn't love, it's fear in disguise. So you choose presence over panic, discipline over drama, peace over permission. You don't need to convince her. You don't need to prove anything. You stand still. And in your stillness, the world begins to revolve around you. That is the power of detachment. Not to turn cold, but to stay warm without burning for someone who throws gasoline at your peace. That is the fire of the Stoic man, and that is why she will remember you. A high-value man never begs to be chosen, because he is the one who chooses, not out of ego, but out of awareness, not because he seeks control, but because he understands his worth. You see, most men hand their power away. They wait, hoping she'll approve. They shape-shift, hoping she'll stay. They tolerate confusion, disrespect, and chaos because they fear being alone more than they value peace. But you've seen the cost of giving your time to someone who hasn't earned it. You no longer plead for clarity from someone who communicates in riddles. You no longer try to decode silence or find meaning in manipulation. You've stopped asking, "Does she like me?" and started asking, Do I even want this energy in my life? That shift is when you become dangerous. Because now you're not reacting, you're filtering. She can say all the right words, but you're watching her patterns, not her promises, not her perfume, not her posts on social media. You're watching what she chooses to invest in you: time, honesty, presence. And if it's not there, you don't argue, you don't confront. You simply withdraw, silently, elegantly, finally, because you know the most powerful boundary is your absence. And the most masculine decision is to walk away without anger, not to punish her, not to teach her a lesson, but because your energy is sacred and your peace is not up for negotiation. This is what most women have never experienced: a man who doesn't chase the drama, a man who doesn't crack under pressure, a man who isn't trying to prove his worth because he's already embodied it. When you reach this place, everything changes. You're no longer the man texting, "Please just talk to me." You're the man who reads silence as a signal and responds with self-respect. If she says, "I'm not sure how I feel," you reply, "Take the time you need. I won't wait, but I wish you clarity." If she sends mixed signals, you don't lean in, you step back. If she demands you prove something that's already obvious, you simply smile and let her go. Because your attention is not a gift you hand out in desperation. It is a reward for honesty, softness, and genuine connection. And here's the paradox. When you become the man who lets her choose freely, but reserves the right to choose, in the end, you become unforgettable. You're no longer playing a game where she's the prize and you're the contestant. You've become the standard, the gravity, the calm in the chaos she didn't know she was craving. Because women test men to feel their power. But when you don't flinch, when you don't fight to be seen, they realize they've been in the presence of a man who doesn't need to be wanted to feel whole. That man is rare, and rare men don't compete, they select. So remember this: when you hold the power to walk away, you also hold the power to attract something real. Someone who sees you not just for how you make them feel, but for the man you are. Some men disappear from a woman's life and she barely notices. But you leave behind a silence she can't ignore. Not because of the noise you made when you were there, but because of the stillness you carried. A man who lives by Stoic principles doesn't need to prove his worth. He simply embodies it. You don't react, you observe. You don't chase, you choose. You don't beg for love. You create gravity that draws it in or filters it out. That's the kind of man who lingers in a woman's soul, long after the messages fade. Long after she's scrolled through distractions, long after others have tried and failed to replace the peace you brought, because she never had to wonder what you wanted. She only had to wonder why you stopped giving it. This is the power of Stoicism. You no longer try to manipulate outcomes. You simply master your own mind. You don't try to win her back. You win yourself back fully, silently, without announcement. You let go not to punish, but to protect your energy. You walk away not to create distance, but to reclaim direction. When drama arises, you don't escalate. You ground yourself. When she pulls back, you don't panic. You return to purpose. When your ego is bruised, you don't lash out. You sit in the fire and become forged by it. Because the man who cannot be shaken is the man she cannot forget. She may try to move on, but no one else offers the same stillness, the same clarity, the same unwavering presence. While others compete for her attention, you command respect simply by being anchored. And if she wants to return, she must approach differently, because the man who once overextended now sets boundaries. The man who once overexplained now speaks only with purpose. The man who once feared losing her now knows he was never meant to keep what was unsure to begin with. And this is what haunts her. Not your absence, but your evolution. Not the way you left, but the man you became after you stopped chasing. Because now you're not just a memory. You're a mirror reflecting everything she lost when she treated you like an option. This is the man Stoicism sculpts. Not cold, not cruel, but calm, discerning, clear. A man who values inner peace more than external validation. A man who lives by principles, not pressure. A man who draws boundaries with love and walks away in silence so his worth can speak louder than any final word. So let this be your reminder. You are not here to convince. You are here to become. You are not here to prove yourself to the wrong woman. You are here to be the mountain unshakable, unmoved, unforgettable. Because the man who lives by Stoic fire never burns out chasing anyone. He simply glows and lets those who truly see him come closer. If you've ever felt the sting of manipulation, the confusion of emotional games, or the emptiness of chasing someone who only noticed your absence, know this. You are not broken. You were simply called to become unshakable. Type unshakable in the comments if you're ready to step into that version of yourself. One that doesn't react but rises. One that doesn't chase but chooses. And if this message found you at the right moment, don't forget to subscribe. Because this is not the end, it's the beginning of mastering your frame, your fire, and your freedom. You were never meant to be ordinary. You were meant to become the man who commands love, not with noise, but with silence, presence, and power. Welcome to Stoic love, and welcome home.